Hi, welcome back to Estate Planning Using LLCs. My name is Barry Haimo and I'm your host. Today we are continuing to talk about the operating agreement, and we're going to talk about pitfalls, mistakes, case studies, and application. Then we're going to get into asset protection in the next video. So, jumping in, pitfalls or mistakes that people make in the LLC operating agreement. This is again a video for professionals, attorneys, and other people who are either drafting or advising clients on them. So I have this divided into two parts: general mistakes and specific mistakes. In terms of general mistakes, I've mentioned it already in a prior video, but do-it-yourself is a terrible solution. There's kind of two ways to do it, right? You have your online Mickey Mouse docs, and now you have your AI generated documents. I'm not a fan of either one of those. In fact, I think the AI ones are more damaging than they are helpful. I'm having a lot of very smart people send me stuff to look at that needs a lot of work. In fact, more work than would be required if I just did it in the first place. Maybe that won't be the case in the future of AI, but I think it's, as I said in my other video, it's different if I do it as a professional who has been doing a lot of this work, and I know what to look for, I know what the issues are, I know how they all relate to each other, and I can pick apart an operating agreement, versus a person who does not have those types of skills and is relying exclusively on what looks good because it's got a lot of magic words and is formatted nicely. So DIY. Don't let your clients do it. One size fits all is a mistake. Not taking into consideration the very specific goals, intent, facts of each situation. That's a problem. A lack of litigation experience to see the other side of how these things can be exploited is important. Specifically, on the other side, we have, I think, mandatory distributions. I think is a mistake, especially when it comes to asset protection planning. Having a provision that says you have to make distributions, I think, is a mistake. You want it to be discretionarily, and there's a lot more you can do with that. Omitting the tax distributions, we talked about that in the last video, that it's important to sometimes consider a mandatory tax distribution so that people who are getting taxed on the income they're not even receiving can at least pay the tax. Inadequately addressing managerial succession, transfers, restrictions, employment, IP, and covenants. I think all of those deserve their own videos, and fortunately I actually have them in our Bite-Sized Bits of Knowledge series on our YouTube channel. So check those out. Those are the specific things that I think people screw up when they're making an operating agreement. So, case study, one of two. We have a case where, and years ago, it was a 3-partner e-commerce business, fairly successful. One partner dies. They used a Mickey Mouse online agreement. They ended up litigating for 3 years, well in excess of $500,000 in litigation to attorneys. A core contested issue in that case was whether a transfer was effective, because that transfer carried a vote that would serve as the tiebreaker for the deceased, following the passing of that partner. So we had an issue on the meeting, validity of the meeting, the validity of the transfer, validity of the voting right. The issue really came down to only a few words that were missing in the operating agreement in this particular case. But boy, did it blow up. Big time. And as I say in my litigation videos on my YouTube channel, it's called Bite-Sized Bits of Knowledge. Litigation is much more than financial. It's much more than business. It's emotional. It affects families. I've seen divorce caused by litigation. They were not in litigation, but one was in litigation and one wasn't. and that it caused a divorce. So it's like an amplified effect. So this stuff is real. It really affects people's lives in an important way. You want to do it right. If you're going to do it right. The statute does not do a good job, and the Mickey Mouse agreements do not do much of a better job either. So, case study number 2. E-commerce SaaS business venture, raised capital, had key personnel with vested units. During challenging times, management and key personnel disagreed as to the vision and direction. So a key personnel left. The core issue here was how to address that departure. It was a voluntary termination. There was a buyout feasibility. The valuation was that issue. It was in financial distress. There was not a lot of money. This is a successful case where the agreement provided the mechanism, and all you had to do was enforce the mechanism. Say, here's what we agreed, here's what's going to happen. And unfortunately, that worked out well. There was no litigation, there was no blow up. Okay, moving on to application. Where are LLCs helpful? I would say they're prevalent in a variety of different contexts. Number 1, I got 4 on my list. Number 1, ongoing businesses or going concerns, like my case studies. Number 2, raising capital. I would say barring going public, you can really do a more creative job of raising capital with partnerships, with an LLC as a partnership than you can otherwise. I think some sophisticated investors are still going to be a little bit picky, and they're not going to want the K1s. They might want a C Corp. But if you have to be flexible to make it work, LLCs are the way to go. That are taxed as a partnership. Real estate is number 3. Nested entities, holding company structures, the parent subsidiary structure, management companies. That's where we see those, and we use those in real estate. And 4, family limited partnerships, which historically were limited partnerships. That's why they're called family limited partnerships, where you have the gifting and moving around of interests for estate tax planning purposes. I think we'll talk about that later. It's a good way of shifting wealth. It was really helpful in terms of the estate tax planning, but it also has a really important asset protection planning benefit in many states, including Florida, Wyoming, Nevada, Delaware. So the next video, we're going to talk about asset protection. So stay tuned for more, and thank you for tuning in.